Hello and welcome to CIO News. I am Khushbu, Soni, your host for the broadcast and chief editor at CIO News. This is our exclusive interview series on the topic of zero trust security trend, powered by Zscaler with our CIOs and CISOs in India. It is a recorded session and will be available on our website, that is ciunews.co.in, and our CIO News LinkedIn handle. It is my pleasure to invite today's guest once again on the CIO News platform. He is Mr. Debashis Singh, the Chief Information Officer and the Digital Transformation Lead at Mphasis. Debashis has result-driven IT leadership experience and expertise in energizing and leading technology-based growth initiatives, has fast-track management career marked by demonstrated ability to build peak performing teams and achieve cross-functional business objectives. Debashis is experienced in both startups as well as large corporations and has strengths including a unique combination of interpersonal and technical skills. It's an absolute pleasure to have you today, Debashis, and thank you once again for taking out time for CIO News and joining us on another series of CIO News.
Thank you so much, Khushbu. Absolute pleasure to be here. And thanks for that very, very long and detailed intro of mine. I was feeling well. That's really great to have such intro. But nevertheless, I'm the global CIO at Mphasis, based out of Bangalore. And as we all know, IT services company, so kind of work across the globe. So that's a very quick intro about it. Try to keep my hands on the latest technology all the time because we provide solutions to our customer. So we have to ensure that we definitely try those techs and possibly certify internally before we take it to our customers. So that's the primary role and enabler for me being part of Mphasis.
Wonderful. Thank you, Debashis, for also good to hear from you on your roles. Also, Debashis, before we actually start about talking about zero trust trends, I would want to maybe first get a perspective on how your typical day looks like, in the current environment, in the current situation that we are in, with what it was, how it has changed, and what is your typical day now with such a dynamic environment?
Sure. I think let me kind of step back and give some perspective out here. IT industry possibly was used to work from home from the very, very beginning. It is nothing new for IT industry. The only thing which changed in last 2 years or so is the scale. It has happened all of a sudden and with the scale of 100%. And that was the only change for the IT industry. Otherwise, at overall industry and the market, what has changed now, and there is a major shift there. We used to advocate saying every business is a digital business. Today, it has been proven, it has been tested and kind of practiced as we speak. Every business, every company is an IT company. Every business is a digital business. And that is irrespective of industry you belong to.
Right.
That's the reality today. And that has brought some very, very interesting perspective to look into.
Right.
Used to be inside the perimeter within the office premises, you used to have a standard architecture dealing with your services, your data, your information, your people, and the access around it, right? That was a particular way it was happening. As in a digital world, probably there is no boundary, there is no perimeter anymore. People are everywhere and everywhere. That is what your employees or your stakeholders. And your data, that is what you're working, your systems, tools, they are somewhere in the cloud.
Right.
Many do not know where they are even. That is how the reality is. So when everything has changed to a, so to say, borderless, boundaryless environment, probably we cannot bring that traditional approach, and that is what every enterprise initially kind of explore the areas how to deal with that change. That's a massive, massive change, for every industry for that matter, right? In today's context, I'm sure almost everyone has brought a framework, brought a control, brought a change in the architecture, which deals with this scenario, changed environment, changed scenario going forward. And that is where the zero trust come in as one of the biggest enabler to ensure your comfort level, your access level is controlled in this new normal or new way of life.
Right. Great. Wonderful and very rightly mentioned as well. In these recent years, witnessed a number of targeted attacks and, a lot of corporations, critical infrastructures of all kinds, public sectors and private enterprises has faced some kind of, cyber attack or, severe impacts through cybersecurity. So, also, with organizations moving rapidly to digital and transforming, accelerating their transformation to digital platforms, there have been a lot of focus on the cybersecurity perspective. So, what are your thoughts on, how should IT leaders keep up with their cybersecurity practice and keep their organization safe in the current times?
Great question. It kind of links to our past path when I was talking about employees or your stakeholders are probably anywhere and everywhere. That is what the new way of work life is. And your data is possibly in the cloud or somewhere outside. Right. So in this less environment, essentially the entire transaction is happening over internet. So your traditional architecture related to security or cyber needs a complete relook. Right. We would have already done it by now. There are solutions and approach on the products available which enables this change. Let's talk about the end employees. Typically, what happens when I'm sitting inside the office premises, I may be having access to the standard enterprise tools and systems, or I may be accessing the customer environment and delivering services. That is the context. I am doing more or less the similar work, but I'm doing from an uncontrolled, unmonitored environment, which is over the internet from my home. Right. So where we have to bring all the control and the changes to ensure our data and security posture does not get compromised. And the confidence that we used to provide to our customers, our stakeholders in a typical office environment, we are able to maintain it. Because at the end of the day, your customer has to have that confidence that here is a partner who is able to deliver services to me without compromising my data. That is the most key component. And solutions like zero trust and web proxies possibly gives you that edge to kind of get that open risk that would have come in because of an uncontrolled environment from the work from home. So what it does essentially is even if you are working from home, your identity and your device both are treated as foreign devices or kind of uncontrolled devices, right? So depending what level of controls, what level of configuration you have done in your system and tools, this zero trust decides what is the access I need to enable for this employee or this particular. So two factors. One is the identity. Second is the device itself. Because there is always a way if somebody wants to do it intentionally, the intent is wrong. So I have my identity. I can use a personal computer, personal device to access the same environment. So what happens in that case, the local controls at the device level, that gets compromised. Right. So those encryptions, your AVs, your EDRs, and so on and so forth, that may not be there your personal devices. So that is where you bring both the controls. One is the identity side of it, which is related to the individual. Second is the device related controls as well, which ensures that the access is only given if both are tick marked.
Right.
That moment that is done, the device that employee is accessing from home, that will have all the end controls, whatever typically we do, which gives us the ability to stop any kind of data loss, like your DLP clients and other EDRs will definitely give you those visibility. And at the same time, stop employees or stop people having with the bad intent to access those environment which is not controlled. So
right.
That is the biggest control you can bring in with the solutions like Zero Trust, right?
Correct.
And all the access that you do, if you put solutions like web proxy, that essentially means anything that getting out of the local device at employee's home gets routed through your web proxy environment, which probably monitors and controls and filters as well in those content and traffic, which is unwanted.
Right.
Definitely brings a lot of control over the work from home environment. In addition to that, you need to definitely have more focused solutions and approach around the identity side of it. We use the Azure identity solution that definitely takes care of a lot of other areas, which I don't want to elaborate here. But that is how we can control a completely work from home environment, which is not inside the office premises, which is not going through the so-called network perimeters, but at the end of the day, it assures your required data loss preventions are in place. Right. There is no unauthorized access to your enterprise data as well as your customer information. And there's a legitimate logging or mechanism available to do any kind of forensic, just in case there is a compromise or so.
Correct.
That is the way to look at it. I'm sure majority of the enterprise would have been taken this approach and implemented the solutions. If not, that is the need of the hour. Going forward, you must invest in.
Right. Yes, absolutely. I think this is absolutely the way forward. Debashis, what would be the typical challenges, while deploying these technologies that the CISOs and CIOs usually face?
I will give you a very classic example relevant for IT services, and it also kind of has certain possible impact on non-IT as well. As you all know that in IT services, there are devices which may not be supplied by the enterprise. Meaning, I may be as an employee working on a device which is provided to me by my customer. This is pretty common in IT services industry, and those devices are not, so to say, completely controlled. They will definitely have the required basic controls, which is definitely every enterprise does it, but may not be talking to your backend systems. So that is a question on the visibility, because we call that as non-managed or unmanaged device, as the device has come from a customer or a third party, which may have all the required your antivirus, EDR, DLP, and so on and so forth. But that will be talking to the customer environment or whoever has provided that asset. It is not talking to the enterprise environment. Hence, your visibility is in question. So for those set of devices, if you are looking at a ZTN, a Zero Trust kind of solution, ensure your solution has coverage for both managed devices and unmanaged devices. And why I'm saying that? Because in an unmanaged device, you cannot put an agent, which is typically a small client that you install, which gives you the complete visibility. And that you can achieve only in your own supplied enterprise devices or assets. But if it is not, then you cannot put an end client into it. And even if you put it, may not talk to you as well. So you don't have complete visibility, and hence it is called a device. So your solution, the product that you choose or the platform that you choose should have the ability to manage both managed devices and unmanaged devices. And you need to decide what level of access you want to give for unmanaged devices.
Correct.
I restrict the access only to a browser.
Right.
My content and the data does not get compromised at any point of time, and it remains inside the browser. So I put a managed browser over the net on those kind of devices, which is not device is not managed, but the browser can be managed because I have a soft client or whatever, right?
Correct.
That is the way to look at it, depending on your nature of business and possible use case that you have inside your enterprise. You need to decide. But as I said, in IT services, this is very, very common, and it is also common in other few industries as well. So keep in mind that you need to handle both your own devices, managed devices, and unmanaged. Maybe a company may be gone for BYOD, bring your own device, and allowed employees to kind of access from there. So that essentially unmanaged device, because you can't put a client on that, because that is not correct as per the other systems. So hence, how to deal with those set of users, those set of identity is taken care, but asset has to be also taken care. So that is what you need to kind of draw that balance and choose the right platform which has got the right ability to handle any kind of scenarios or use cases inside your enterprise.
Wonderful insights, Debashis. My next question is, what are the zero trust strategies? You mentioned a lot about managed, unmanaged devices as well. So, if you can put down the top 5 practices to consider for putting across the zero trust strategies for secure network and application access.
Absolutely. So the first of all, you need to, as I said from the beginning, go back and redraw your security architecture, which is aligned to the new normal. So that is the first thing. You have to create an architecture, create a blueprint, understand what are the risks that you have in the new environment. It is not necessary that everybody has to implement zero trust. That's not the way. It purely depends on the nature of the business and the way of access that you have enabled for your employees or your stakeholders, right? So that is the first thing. Go back to the drawing board, create your architecture, create that blueprint, understand what are your risks in that, in the new working, identify the risk part of it. Once you identify that, then decide how to deal with it. Like the scenario I spoke about, managed, unmanaged. You identify that I have a scenario wherein my employees are distributed working from home, accessing customer data, which is sensitive, which has to be protected. And I have both asset provided by company, managed devices, and maybe a BYOD population as well, which is unmanaged, or maybe asset given by customer, which is unmanaged. So I need to bring a solution which fits to that particular risk or that particular scenario or that particular use case. So likewise, you have to identify your areas which is required that attention and start bridging and kind of putting solutions for each of these areas. Doing it one piece and not looking at overall, taking a view which is going to protect your end-to-end information landscape, that is not going to help. So you have to really go back to your drawing board and create that architecture and start. I just spoke about JTNA, I spoke about web proxy. There are many new solutions and technologies available. So you have to decide, maybe my VPN will be good enough, I don't need a JTNA.
Correct.
Depending on what kind of solutions you need, what is your risk appetite, at the same time exposure, you have to decide what is the best solution for your environment. And believe me, it has to be a hybrid environment. You cannot have one solution which is going to fit your entire enterprise.
Yeah.
Every enterprise has different use cases, different scenarios. You have to accordingly plan that out. As long as you do it, I'm sure you'll be able to kind of mitigate and provide the same level of assurance to your customers, your stakeholders, and your data will always remain secure.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Debashis. One last question before we end today's episode. Any advices or your learnings, best practice that you would want to recommend to the CISOs and the CIOs?
I will say ensure visibility to your endpoints. That is very, very critical. While you do focus on your identity side of it, which is essentially completely governed inside your enterprise, but do focus on the endpoint, how you taking care of different areas in today's context. If there is a malware attack, there is a some kind of compromise, how to deal with that? Bring solutions around it, be it your backup solutions, be it your visibility solutions around giving you the visibility so that you can immediately react and kind of take actions and so on and so forth. So ensure your visibility is all the time available to you. You know what you are doing, because in a distributed environment, that's the biggest challenge. You don't get the complete visibility. So bring that visibility. There are multiple ways to do that, and create solutions which is which is suitable for your industry depending on your risk appetite.
Right. Awesome. Thank you, Debashis, once again for joining us on the CIO News platform. And we look forward to having many more discussions with you on various topics of technology.
Thank you so much having me here, Khushbu. Thank you.